My husband died 15 years ago. Every month I sent his sister $500 for mortgage payments. But one day the bank sent a letter. Ma'am, the house was sold 3 years ago. Good day, dear listeners. It's Larissa again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end. And let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Margaret, and for 15 years I believed I was doing the right thing. After my husband Robert died, I promised him I would take care of his sister Diane. She was struggling with her mortgage, raising her daughter Jessica alone, and I wanted to honor Robert's memory by helping his family. $500 every month without fail, transferred directly to her account. It wasn't easy on my modest pension, but I managed. I cut back on groceries, skipped vacations, wore the same coat for 10 winters. It felt good, noble even, to sacrifice for family. The first crack in my carefully constructed world appeared on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sorting through mail, mostly bills and catalogs, when I noticed an envelope from First National Bank. Strange. I didn't have accounts there. Diane did, though. Her mortgage was through them. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. Perhaps they were thanking me for my years of consistent support? How naive I was. Dear Mrs. Patterson, it read, we are writing to inform you that you have been listed as a reference contact for the property at 847 Maple Drive. However, our records indicate this property was sold on June 15th, 2022. Please update your records accordingly. June 15th, 2022. 3 years ago. I read the letter again, then again. The words didn't change. My kitchen suddenly felt too small, too bright. The cheerful yellow wallpaper Robert and I had chosen seemed to mock me. I sat down heavily, the chair scraping against the linoleum floor. If the house was sold 3 years ago, where had my money been going? $18,000. That's what I had sent in those 3 years alone. 36 payments of $500 each, vanishing into... what? I felt sick. The room tilted slightly, and I gripped the edge of the table. No. There had to be an explanation. Perhaps Diane had refinanced. Maybe she'd bought another property. There were logical reasons, weren't there? I reached for my phone. Diane's number already highlighted on the screen, my thumb hovering over the call button. But something stopped me. I thought about the last time I'd seen Diane and Jessica. It was at Thanksgiving just 4 months ago. They'd arrived in a new car, a sleek silver SUV that Diane had mentioned was just a modest upgrade. Jessica was wearing designer boots I'd complimented, and she'd laughed, saying her mother spoiled her sometimes. They'd brought expensive wine, the kind Robert and I had only bought for anniversaries. All while I was eating store-brand cereal and turning down my thermostat to save money. "Oh, Margaret, you're such an angel," Diane had said, hugging me tight in my cramped living room. "I honestly don't know what I'd do without your help. The mortgage is killing me, but I'm managing, thanks to you." She had looked me straight in the eyes when she said it. I set the phone down. My hand was shaking now, a tremor I couldn't control. How long had this been going on? Was it really just 3 years, or had I been a fool for longer? The thought made my chest tight. I walked to Robert's study. I still called it that, though he'd been gone since 2010. His desk drawer stuck the way it always had. Inside was the file folder where I kept records of every payment to Diane. 15 years of bank statements, each transfer meticulously highlighted in yellow. $5,400 a year, $90,000 total. $90,000. The number seemed impossible. That was a new car, multiple vacations, a comfortable retirement. Instead, I had a drawer full of receipts and a letter telling me I'd been sending money to nowhere. or worse, sending it somewhere very deliberate. I thought about calling Diane again. Surely there was an explanation. Family didn't do this to family. Robert's sister wouldn't steal from his widow. Would she? But then I remembered something else from Thanksgiving. Jessica had mentioned, casually, that they were planning a cruise to Alaska in the summer. Mom's always wanted to see the glaciers before they melt, she'd said, scrolling through photos on her phone. A cruise? On what money, exactly? The letter from the bank sat on my kitchen table, innocent-looking white paper that had just destroyed my peace of mind. I should call. I should demand answers immediately. But something told me to wait, to think, to be smart about this. Because if Diane had been lying to me for 3 years, or longer, she wouldn't suddenly tell the truth just because I asked nicely. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, doing mathematics in my head. $90,000 over 15 years. But what about the 3 years since the house was sold? 18,000 of that was pure theft. Unless it had been longer. The thought sent ice through my veins. What if there had never been a mortgage crisis? What if Diane had been lying from the beginning? At 3 a.m., I got up and made tea I didn't drink. I sat at Robert's desk with a calculator and my old bank statements, going back to the very first payment in 2010. The month after Robert's funeral, when Diane had come to me crying, saying she was about to lose the house. Her daughter was only 10 then. She'd sobbed. Where would they go? Robert would want me to help, I'd said, writing that first check. Now I wrote different numbers. 90,000 total. My monthly pension was $2,400. I'd been giving away more than 20% of my income for 15 years. 20% of my life given to a lie. I felt anger then, hot and sharp. But underneath it was something worse. Fear. Because if I confronted Diane and she denied everything, what could I actually prove? I had bank statements showing I'd sent money. She could claim she'd told me the house was sold, that I'd insisted on helping anyway. Who would believe a 65-year-old widow over a grieving sister-in-law? And there was something else. Something that made my stomach clench. If Diane had stolen from me this brazenly, what else was she capable of? The morning came eventually. I was exhausted but clear-headed. I needed proof. Not just the bank's letter. That only covered 3 years. I needed to know when the deception started, when the mortgage was actually paid off, if it ever had been in crisis at all. I had a friend, Barbara, from my book club. Her son worked in real estate. I'd helped her when her husband died, sat with her through those first terrible months. We'd been close ever since. At 9 a.m., I called her. "Barbara, I need a favor, a private one." My voice was steady. "Can your son look up property records for me? I need to know the history of a house, when it was purchased, if there was a mortgage, when it was sold." There was a pause. Barbara was sharp. She heard what I wasn't saying. "Margaret, are you all right?" "I will be, once I know the truth." She didn't ask more questions. "I'll call him now. Give me the address." I gave her Diane's old address, 847 Maple Drive. Then I waited. The call came back 2 hours later. I was pacing my small living room, wearing a path in the carpet Robert and I had chosen 30 years ago. "Margaret." Barbara's voice was gentle. "Sit down, honey." My legs were already weak. "Tell me." The house was purchased in 1995 by Diane Patterson. There was a mortgage, yes, but it was paid off in full in 2008, 2 years before Robert died. In 2022, she sold it for $340,000. She bought a condo downtown for $180,000, cash, no new mortgage. The room swam. 2008. The mortgage had been paid off in 2008. "Margaret? Are you there?" "I'm here." My voice sounded distant. Thank you, Barbara. Do you want me to come over? What's going on? Not yet. I need to think. I hung up and stared at the wall. 15 years. All 15 years had been a lie. From the very beginning, Diane had lied to me. At Robert's funeral, while I was still raw with grief, she'd invented a crisis that didn't exist. She'd watched me scrimp and save, watched me sacrifice, and she'd taken every dollar with a smile. $90,000, stolen with tears and hugs and Christmas cards. The fear was still there, but the anger was growing. I thought about calling the police. But what law had she broken, exactly? I'd given her the money willingly. She'd lied, yes, but proving fraud would be difficult, expensive. I'd need a lawyer I couldn't afford. No, the legal system wasn't the answer, but I wasn't helpless. I had information now. Diane didn't know I knew. That was power. I opened my laptop, a cheap thing I'd bought secondhand because I was helping family, and started a document. I titled it Evidence. I listed dates, amounts, the bank's letter, Barbara's information, everything organized, clear. Then I started planning. Diane had played a long game, 15 years of deception. Fine, I could be patient too. But my game would end differently. She'd taken my money. Now I would take something she valued more. Her reputation, her relationship with her daughter, her comfortable lie. I would dismantle it all, piece by piece, until she had nothing left but the truth. My first official step came 3 days later. I drove to First National Bank, the same bank that had sent me the letter. I wore my best dress, the navy one I saved for important occasions, and carried a folder with all my documentation. The manager, a man named Thomas Chen, listened to my story with growing concern. I showed him 15 years of transfer records. I showed him the letter his bank had sent me. I was calm, methodical, almost businesslike. Mrs. Patterson, I'm very sorry this happened to you, he said. But I need to be clear. The bank can't disclose details about Ms. Patterson's accounts without her permission or a court order. I understand, but can you confirm something? I leaned forward. The letter says the house was sold in 2022. Can you tell me if there were any mortgage payments being made on that property in, say, 2009 or 2010? He hesitated, then typed something into his computer. His expression shifted. Mrs. Patterson, I can't give you specific account information, but I can tell you that our records show no active mortgage on that property after 2008. He looked at me with something like pity. I'm sorry. There it was. Official confirmation. Not just Barbara's son's research, but bank records. No mortgage after 2008. 2 years before Robert died. 2 years before Diane came to me crying. Thank you, I said quietly. That's all I needed to know. I drove home with my hands tight on the wheel. The evidence was building, solid as brick. But I needed more. I needed something that would make the truth undeniable. That evening, I did something I'm not proud of. I called Jessica, Aunt Margaret. Her voice was bright, cheerful. She'd always called me Aunt, even though I was technically just her uncle's widow. How are you? I'm well, dear. I was just thinking about you. How's your mother? Oh, she's great! Actually, she's talking about buying a vacation property in Florida. Can you believe it? She says she's finally financially secure enough to invest. My grip on the phone tightened. That's wonderful. She's worked so hard. She really has. Hey, you know what? She was just saying the other day how grateful she is for everything you did back when she was struggling with the house. She said she never could have gotten through those tough years without you. Those tough years. The ones that never existed. I'm glad I could help, I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. Jessica, can I ask you something? When did your mother sell the house on Maple Drive? There was a tiny pause. That was a few years ago. 2022, I think. Why? Just curious. I was thinking about it the other day. So she sold it and bought the condo? Yeah, she got such a good deal on the condo. Paid cash, can you imagine? She said she'd been saving for years. Jessica laughed. I keep telling her she should write a book about financial planning. Saving for years, with my money. That's quite impressive, I managed. Well, I should let you go, dear. Okay, love you, Aunt Margaret. After I hung up, I sat in silence. Jessica didn't know. That much was clear. She genuinely believed her mother had saved the money, had worked hard. Diane had lied to her own daughter about where the money came from. Good. That would make the revelation even more devastating. But I still needed the smoking gun. Direct proof that Diane had deliberately deceived me. Something that couldn't be explained away. The answer came from an unexpected source. I was cleaning out a closet the next day. Something to keep my hands busy. When I found a box of old cards and letters. Birthday cards from Diane. Christmas cards, thank you notes. I'd kept them all. Sentimental fool that I was. I started reading through them, looking for... I wasn't sure what. Then I found it. A card from 2011, 1 year after Robert's death. Inside, in Diane's neat handwriting, Dear Margaret, I can't thank you enough for your help with the mortgage. Another year of payments ahead, but knowing you're there makes it bearable. Robert would be so proud of your kindness. Love, Diane. And another from 2015. Margaret, your continued support with the house payments means everything. Only a few more years until it's paid off. But the house had been paid off in 2008. I photographed every card, every written lie. Then I kept digging. There were emails too, ones I'd printed out and saved. In 2018, Diane had written, Margaret, I know $500 is a lot, but the mortgage company is being so strict about late payments. I promise just a few more years. 10 years after the mortgage was paid off. 4 years before she sold the house. My hands were shaking now, but not from age or fear. From fury. I had it. Written proof in her own handwriting of deliberate, ongoing fraud. Years of documented lies. But that evening, something happened that told me Diane was getting suspicious. My phone rang. It was her. Margaret, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing? Her voice was warm, friendly, too friendly. I'm fine, Diane. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. I've been feeling guilty about all the help you've given me over the years. The mortgage is finally in good shape now, and I was thinking, maybe you don't need to send the monthly payments anymore. You've done so much already. My blood ran cold. She was trying to cut me off. After 15 years, suddenly she wanted to stop. Why now? I asked carefully. Oh, you know, I'm just in a better place financially. And I worry about you, living on your pension. I don't want to be a burden anymore. She knew. Somehow she knew I was digging. That's very thoughtful, Diane. Let me think about it. Of course, no rush. I wanted you to know you don't owe me anything. After we hung up, I sat very still. She was scared. That call wasn't generosity, it was damage control, which meant I needed to move faster. I moved forward with my plan the very next morning. I typed up a formal letter addressed to Diane, documenting every payment I'd made since 2010. I included copies of the bank's letter, the property records showing the 2008 mortgage payoff, and photographs of her handwritten cards claiming the mortgage was still active years after it was paid. The letter ended with a simple demand. Return the $90,000 within 30 days, or I would pursue legal action and inform the entire family, including Jessica, of the fraud. I sent it via certified mail. She'd have to sign for it. She'd know I was serious. Then I waited. 2 days later, my phone exploded with calls. Diane, Jessica, Diane again. I didn't answer. I wanted them to panic, to wonder what I knew and what I'd do. On the third day, they showed up at my door. I'd been expecting this. I opened the door to find both of them on my porch. Jessica looked confused and worried. Diane looked furious, though she was trying to hide it behind a mask of concern. "Margaret, we need to talk," Diane said, pushing past me into my living room. "Aunt Margaret, what's going on?" Jessica's voice was plaintive. "Mom's really upset. She won't tell me what's happening." "Come in," I said calmly. "Let's all sit down." Diane rounded on me the moment the door closed. "How dare you threaten me? After everything I've been through, everything our family has been through." "What threat?" I asked, my voice ice cold. "I simply asked for my money back." "Your money? I never asked you for anything. You offered to help." "With a mortgage that was already paid off." The color drained from Diane's face. Jessica looked between us, confused. "What are you talking about?" Jessica asked. "Mom, what mortgage?" "Jessica, sweetheart, your Aunt Margaret is confused," Diane said quickly. "She's getting older. Her memory—" "My memory is perfect," I interrupted. "Would you like to see the bank records? The property records showing your mother's house was paid off in 2008? The letters she wrote me in 2011, 2015, 2018, claiming she still had mortgage payments." Jessica's eyes widened. "Mom? Margaret, you don't understand the full situation," Diane said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. "Yes, the original mortgage was paid off, but there were other expenses. Property taxes, repairs, insurance. I was struggling." "Then why did you specifically say mortgage payments in your letters? Why lie?" Diane's jaw tightened. She glanced at Jessica, then back at me. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, harder, colder. "You want to do this? Fine. Let's talk about what Robert would think. His widow suing his sister? Tearing the family apart over money? Don't you dare use Robert's name," I said quietly. "You used it to steal from me for 15 years. "Sue me then," Diane snapped. "Go ahead. Hire a lawyer with what money? You'll spend everything you have left on legal fees and get nothing. And everyone will know you attacked family. Your friends, your church, everyone will know you chose money over family." It was a threat, a clear, calculated threat. Jessica stepped back, looking sick. "Mom, did you actually lie to Aunt Margaret?" "Jessica, stay out of this." "Did you?" Diane's mask cracked. "I did what I had to do. Your uncle died and left us with nothing. Margaret had his pension, his life insurance, everything. We were struggling, and she had money sitting there." "So you lied to her for 15 years? Jessica's voice was rising. "You made me think we were poor when you had money to buy a condo in cash? Jessica, get out." My voice cut through their argument. "Both of you, get out of my house." Diane's eyes flashed with rage. "You'll regret this, Margaret. You think you're so righteous. Wait until everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Greedy, selfish, attacking a widow who was just trying to survive." I said, "Get out." They left. Diane stormed out first, with Jessica trailing behind, looking shell-shocked and tearful. I closed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking now. The confrontation had been worse than I'd imagined. Diane wasn't just going to give up. She was going to fight, dirty, and she'd threatened my reputation. In a small community like ours, that mattered. For the next 3 days, I did nothing. I stayed home, didn't answer calls, barely ate. I needed time to recover from that confrontation, to shore up my resolve. Had I gone too far? Should I just let it go? No, No, I couldn't. $90,000. 15 years of lies. But I needed to be smarter. Diane was vicious when cornered, and she was right about one thing. A legal battle would drain my remaining resources. I needed a different approach. On the fourth day, I felt ready again, rested, clear-headed, and I had a new plan. The temptation came in the form of a check. It arrived by courier the next morning. $10,000 made out to me, with a note in Diane's handwriting. Margaret, I'm sorry for everything. I know this doesn't cover everything, but it's what I can afford right now. Please, let's end this peacefully. For Robert, for family. Diane, 10,000 out of 90,000. 11%. I held the check and felt nothing but contempt. This was a test. She was offering me a fraction, hoping I'd be grateful enough to go away. Hoping I'd choose the certain smaller sum over the uncertain fight for justice. I tore the check in half, then in quarters, then into tiny pieces that I threw in the trash. An hour later, my phone rang. Diane again. This time, I answered. Did you get my check? Her voice was careful, controlled. I did. And? It's in the garbage where it belongs. Silence. Then, Margaret, be reasonable. $10,000 is a lot of money. I'm trying to make this right. You stole $90,000 from me. You think $10,000 makes it right? It's all I can give you right now. I have expenses, Jessica's college loans to help with. College loans paid for with my money, you mean? Her voice hardened. Fine. You want to be stubborn? I tried to be generous. Remember that I tried. She hung up. I felt strangely calm. The bribe, because that's what it was, had actually strengthened my resolve. She was desperate. Good. But I also felt alone. Terribly alone. That evening, I called Barbara. I need to talk to someone, I said. Can you come over? She arrived within the hour, carrying a casserole and a bottle of wine. We sat in my kitchen, and I told her everything. The 15 years of payments, the lies, the confrontation, the bribe. Barbara listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Margaret, I'm so sorry. This is horrible. Am I crazy? Should I just take whatever money she offers and move on? Absolutely not. Barbara's voice was fierce. What she did was cruel. It was theft. And you have every right to fight back. But what if Diane's right? What if I can't afford a lawyer? What if I lose and everyone thinks I'm just a bitter old woman? Then you don't fight her in court, Barbara said slowly. You fight her where it really hurts. What do you mean? Diane cares about appearances. She cares about looking successful, generous, respectable. She lied to her own daughter about where her money came from. That's her weakness. I thought about this. Barbara was right. Diane had built her entire comfortable life on a foundation of lies, not just to me, but to Jessica, to friends, probably to everyone. What do? You tell the truth, publicly, not in court. That's expensive and uncertain. But you tell everyone who matters, the family, the church, her friends. You document everything, and you show people exactly who Diane really is. It was brilliant and terrible, and exactly what Diane deserved. Over the next week, I wasn't alone. Barbara came over daily. She helped me organize my evidence, create a timeline, write out a clear, factual account of what had happened. She contacted other friends from our book club, from church. One by one, they came to me. Is it true what we're hearing about Diane? I showed them the evidence, the bank records, the property records, the handwritten cards with Diane's lies in her own hand. Word spread, quietly at first, then faster. I didn't have to shout or make a scene. I just had to tell the truth and let it do its work. Diane and Jessica stopped calling. I imagined them holed up in that downtown condo, realizing that the whispers were growing, that their reputation was crumbling. 10 days after I'd torn up the check, I saw Jessica at the grocery store. She approached me cautiously, like I might explode. Aunt Margaret. Hello, Jessica. I wanted you to know, I believe you. I've been looking through Mom's financial records. I found the property sale documents, the condo purchase. I did the math. Her eyes were red. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know you didn't. I confronted her about it. She doesn't want to talk to me right now. Jessica's voice broke. My whole life, I thought we were barely getting by. She used to cry about money, and all that time she had my money. Jessica nodded miserably. I'm moving out. I can't live with her anymore. I can't even look at her. She walked away, shoulders hunched. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired, but also relieved. The support around me was real. The truth was out there now, spreading like roots through soil. Diane was isolated, and she knew it. They came back 2 weeks later, both of them, appearing at my door on a Sunday afternoon. I was surprised to see Jessica with her mother. Through the window, I could see Diane's expression. Carefully composed, almost serene. Jessica looked miserable. I opened the door. Margaret. Diane's voice was warm, conciliatory. Please, can we come in? We want to talk. To make peace? Every instinct screamed not to trust her. But I was curious. What new manipulation was this? All right. They sat on my couch. Diane folded her hands in her lap like we were having tea. Margaret, I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of praying. She looked at me with what seemed like genuine remorse. You're right. I've made terrible mistakes. I took advantage of your generosity, and I'm deeply, truly sorry. I said nothing. Waited. I want to make this right. I've spoken to my financial advisor and I can offer you $50,000. It's not the full amount, but it's substantial. And I'll put it in writing that I owe you the rest to be paid over time. 50,000. More than half. It was a real offer, seemingly genuine. And all you want in return? I asked. Just peace. No more spreading stories about what happened. A private family matter, handled privately. Jessica and I have been through so much stress. The whole community is talking. Our reputation. And there it was. Your reputation, I repeated. Our family's reputation, Diane corrected. Yours too, Margaret. People are starting to say you're vindictive, that you're tearing the family apart over money. Is that really how you want to be remembered? As the woman who destroyed her husband's family? Mom, Jessica said quietly, uncomfortably. I'm trying to help everyone here, including Margaret, Diane continued, her voice taking on an edge. $50,000 is generous considering she gave the money voluntarily. No court would give her more than that. Voluntarily? I felt my anger rising. Based on your lies. Based on your misunderstanding, Diane said smoothly. I never explicitly said the mortgage was active. If you assumed, I have your letters, your cards, your own handwriting saying mortgage payments. Letters I wrote under extreme stress when I was grieving Robert, when I was struggling. Any lawyer would say I was in emotional distress, not thinking clearly. Diane leaned forward. Margaret, think practically. Take the $50,000. Sign a simple agreement that this matter is settled. We all move on. And stay quiet about what you did. It's not about staying quiet. It's about dignity. For all of us. I looked at Jessica. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was here, but she wasn't supporting her mother. She was just present. What happens if I refuse? I asked. Diane's expression shifted. The mask slipped just a fraction, and I saw the rage underneath. Then I'll tell everyone the real story. that you pressured me for years to take your money, that I tried to refuse, but you insisted, that Robert always said you were controlling with money, that you held it over people." Her voice was venomous now. "I'll say you're making this up because you regret being generous and now want it back. Who do you think people will believe? The poor widow who lost her brother-in-law, or the bitter old woman with a grudge?" "Mom!" Jessica stood up. "That's not what we came here to do." "Sit down, Jessica." Diane didn't even look at her daughter. "Margaret, I'm giving you one last chance. 50,000 and peace, or nothing and war. Choose." I stood up slowly. My legs were steady. My voice was steady. "Get out of my house. You're making a huge mistake. Get out." Diane grabbed her purse and stood. "Fine. You want to fight? We'll fight. And when I'm done, you'll have nothing. No money, no friends, no dignity. Nothing." She stormed out. Jessica lingered for just a moment. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she followed her mother. I closed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking now. I walked to the kitchen and sat down heavily. Diane's threats echoed in my mind. She would lie. She would twist everything. She had always been good at that, hadn't she? 15 years of perfect lies. Could she really turn everyone against me? Make me look like the villain? Fear crept in, cold and insidious. But beneath the fear, something harder was forming. A steely determination. Diane had just made a critical mistake. She'd shown her true face in front of Jessica, and Jessica had seen it. That whispered apology, it meant something. Diane was panicking. People who panic make mistakes. I wasn't going to back down now, not for 50,000, not for any amount. I was going to see this through to the end. The reckoning came at the monthly family gathering at my nephew David's house. It was Robert's side of the family. Cousins, nieces, nephews. Diane would be there. She'd been attending these for years, playing the devoted sister, the struggling single mother. I hadn't planned to go, but Barbara convinced me. "This is your moment," she said. "Everyone who matters will be there. Tell them the truth. Show them the evidence. Let them decide." I arrived with a folder. Inside were copies of everything. Bank records, property records, Diane's handwritten lies, the timeline of theft. The room went quiet when I walked in. Word had spread, of course. People knew something was wrong between Diane and me, but most didn't know the details. Diane was there, holding court near the kitchen, Jessica standing awkwardly beside her. When Diane saw me, her face went pale, then red. David, Robert's nephew, approached me. "Aunt Margaret, we weren't sure you'd come." "I needed to," I said. "There's something everyone should know." I didn't shout. I didn't make a dramatic announcement. I simply started talking, right there in the living room, and people gradually gathered around. For 15 years, I sent Diane $500 every month. I thought I was helping her save her house. But the house was paid off 2 years before Robert died. She lied to me. She stole from me. $90,000. Diane pushed forward. "That's not true. Margaret, you're confused." "I have bank records." I pulled them out. "Property records showing your mortgage was paid off in 2008. Letters you wrote me claiming you still had mortgage payments in 2011, 2015, 2018. I passed the documents around. People started reading. Their faces changed. "This is a misunderstanding," Diane said, her voice rising. "I never said, 'Here's your Christmas card from 2015. I held it up. "Your own handwriting. Your continued support with the house payments means everything. Only a few more years until it's paid off." The house was already paid off 7 years earlier. I was talking about other expenses. "Then why did you write house payments?" Why did you write until it's paid off? Diane's composure was cracking. You pressured me to take the money. You insisted. For 15 years, you insisted you needed it. And then, when I found out the truth, you tried to bribe me with $10,000, then $50,000. And you threatened to destroy my reputation if I didn't take it and stay quiet. That's a lie, is it? Jessica's voice was quiet but clear. Everyone turned to look at her. Is it a lie, Mom? Jessica, not now. You told me we were poor. You cried about money. You made me feel guilty for wanting new clothes for college. And the whole time you had hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jessica's voice was shaking. You stole from Aunt Margaret and you lied to me. I did what I had to do for us. You did it for yourself. Jessica was crying now. You bought a condo in cash. You're planning to buy a vacation home in Florida. None of that was for me. It was for you. The room was absolutely silent. Every eye was on Diane. You don't understand. Diane looked around desperately. Robert died and left me with nothing. Margaret got everything, his pension, his life insurance. It wasn't fair. So you stole from his widow? David's voice was cold. You lied to her while she was grieving. You needed what? A new car? A cruise to Alaska? A condo downtown? I was standing now, my voice ringing with absolute certainty. You didn't need $90,000, Diane. You wanted it. And you took it by lying to a woman who trusted you because she loved your brother. Diane's face crumpled. I'm sorry, okay? I made mistakes. 15 years of calculated theft isn't a mistake, it's fraud. What do you want from me? Diane screamed it, losing all control. You want to destroy me? Fine, you've won. Everyone knows. Are you happy now? I want my money back, all of it, $90,000. I don't have it. Yes, you do. You have a condo worth $180,000. Sell it. Diane stared at me, wild-eyed. Around us, the family members were murmuring, looking at her with disgust, with shock. You can't make me. I can sue you. With all this evidence, I'll win. And then the court will force you to sell everything. I stepped closer. Or you can do the right thing, finally, after 15 years of lies. Diane sank into a chair. The fight went out of her. She looked old, suddenly, defeated. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said calmly, but you'll still pay me back. It took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of Diane's lawyer calling my lawyer. I'd found one who worked on contingency, confident in my evidence. 6 weeks of negotiations, threats, counter-threats. But the evidence was overwhelming, and Diane's lawyer knew it. The settlement was finalized on a cold Tuesday in April. Diane would pay me $90,000. Not $50,000. Not some negotiated fraction. Every single dollar she'd stolen, plus interest. The total came to $97,500. She had to sell the condo. The beautiful downtown condo she'd bought with my money, the one she'd paid cash for, the one that represented her financial security. It went on the market within a week. She also had to sign a statement admitting the fraud. My lawyer insisted on it. It was part of the public record now, a legal document stating that Diane Patterson had fraudulently obtained money from Margaret Patterson by making false claims about mortgage payments on a property that had no active mortgage. I was there when she signed it. My lawyer had arranged for us to meet at his office for the final signing. Diane arrived looking haggard, her expensive clothes now seeming somehow threadbare. She wouldn't look at me. Sign here, here, and here, the lawyer said, pointing to the highlighted sections. Diane's hand shook as she picked up the pen. She hesitated over the first signature line. This is your last chance to do the right thing without a public trial. my lawyer said firmly. Sign, or we'll see you in court where the judgment will be even harsher. She signed. Each signature looked like it physically hurt her. When she finished, she finally looked up at me. I hope you're happy, she said, her voice bitter. I'm satisfied, I replied calmly. There's a difference. The day the check cleared in my account, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Not tears of joy, just release. 15 years of betrayal, of being used, of feeling like a fool. And now, justice. But the consequences for Diane went far beyond the money. Jessica moved out permanently. She got her own apartment, cut off contact with her mother. At the next family gathering, she sat beside me. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, she said quietly. You couldn't have known. I should have questioned it. All those years of her saying we were broke, but somehow we always had just enough. The new car, the nice clothes. I was so stupid. You trusted your mother. That's not stupid. Jessica squeezed my hand. We didn't talk about Diane after that. The church Diane attended, the one where she'd volunteered, where she'd been on committees, where she'd presented herself as a pillar of the community, asked her to step down from all positions. The pastor, a kind man named Reverend Miles, called me personally. Margaret, I'm so sorry for what you went through. We had no idea. If we had known... You know now, I said simply. Diane stopped coming to church after that. Stopped coming to family gatherings. Stopped answering calls from friends. She moved into a small rental apartment in a cheaper part of town. The vacation property in Florida? Gone? The cruise to Alaska? Canceled? The comfortable retirement she'd built on stolen money? Destroyed? I heard through the family grapevine that she'd tried to find work, but at 63, with no recent employment history and a community that knew what she'd done, no one would hire her. She was surviving on Social Security and nothing else. Exactly the life she'd pretended to have 15 years ago when she'd lied to get my money. The poetic justice of it wasn't lost on me. The real estate agent who sold Diane's condo called me afterward. I hadn't asked for information, but apparently Diane had listed me as a reference in her rental application for the new apartment. Mrs. Patterson? The landlord wanted to verify that Diane Patterson is trustworthy. You were listed as family reference. I paused. One word from me could make Diane homeless. One negative reference. Tell the landlord to do a thorough background check, I said. The public records will tell them everything they need to know. I wasn't going to lie for her, but I wasn't going to actively destroy her either. The truth would do that job perfectly well on its own. 3 months after the settlement, I saw her at the grocery store. It was the first time we'd been in the same place since the confrontation at David's house. She looked terrible. Gray roots showing in her hair, cheap clothes, no makeup. She was using coupons at the checkout, counting out exact change from her purse. Our eyes met across the store. I saw hatred there, and shame, and defeat. I didn't gloat, didn't say a word, just looked at her, this woman who had stolen 15 years of my life and gotten exactly what she deserved. She looked away first, grabbed her single bag of groceries and hurried out. I finished my shopping slowly, peacefully. I could afford name-brand products now. I could afford to heat my house properly. I could afford to live without constantly calculating every penny. Because I had my money back. And more importantly, I had my dignity. The family had rallied around me. Friends supported me. Even people who'd barely known what happened would stop me in town to say they'd heard what I'd been through, and they admired my strength. Diane, meanwhile, was alone. Her daughter wouldn't speak to her. The family had cut her off. Her friends had abandoned her. She'd built her entire life on lies, and when the lies collapsed, there was nothing left. No compromise, no half measures, no generous forgiveness that would let her save face. Just complete, total, righteous victory. Some people would say I should feel guilty about how far Diane fell, that I should show Christian mercy, offer forgiveness, help her rebuild. But those people didn't send her $90,000 based on 15 years of calculated lies. I slept peacefully every night. My new life began that spring, and it was genuinely, surprisingly happy. With the money returned to me, $97,500, I could finally breathe. For the first time in 15 years, I wasn't living on a razor's edge, counting every dollar, denying myself basic comforts. The first thing I did was take Barbara to dinner, a real dinner, at the nicest restaurant in town, the one I'd never been able to afford. "You deserve this," Barbara said, raising her glass of wine. "After everything." "We both do," I said. "I couldn't have survived this without you." We toasted to friendship, to justice, to new beginnings. I bought a new coat. Not a practical, serviceable coat that would last 10 winters, but a beautiful wool coat in deep burgundy that made me feel elegant. I got my hair done professionally. I started eating fresh fruit again instead of canned. Small things, ordinary things, things I'd denied myself for over a decade. I also invested some of the money wisely. A financial advisor, recommended by Barbara's son, helped me set up a modest investment portfolio. For the first time since Robert died, I had actual savings growing, not just disappearing into Diane's lies. "You're doing great, Mrs. Patterson," the advisor told me. "At this rate, you'll have a very comfortable cushion for the rest of your life." A cushion. Security. The things Diane had stolen from me, I was building back. But more than the material comforts, I felt free. The weight of betrayal, of being used, of feeling like a fool. It was gone. I'd stood up for myself. I'd fought and won. Jessica became a regular presence in my life. She came over for dinner every week, helped me with household repairs, asked my advice about her job, her relationships. The relationship I'd once had with her as a child, before Diane's lies created distance, came back, stronger than before. "I'm thinking about going back to school," she told me one evening over coffee. "Maybe get a degree in accounting. Funny, right? After everything with Mom and money." "Not funny, appropriate. You'll be good at it." I want to be honest. That's the main thing. I never want to be like her. "You're nothing like her," I said firmly. "You proved that when you stood up for the truth, even though it meant losing your mother." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "Sometimes I miss her, the person I thought she was. I know, I miss Robert. But we can't miss the lies people told us. We can only move forward with the truth." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "You know what? I'm going to do it. Enroll for fall semester. Will you help me with the applications?" "Of course," I said, feeling a warmth in my chest. This young woman choosing honesty and hard work over her mother's path of deception. It felt like a victory, even beyond my own. Meanwhile, Diane's life continued its downward spiral. I didn't seek out information about her, but in a small community, word travels. Through Jessica, through family members, through chance encounters, I heard things. Diane had tried to reconcile with Jessica multiple times. Phone calls, letters, showing up at Jessica's apartment. Jessica had blocked her number, refused the letters, threatened to call the police. "She says she's sorry," Jessica told me once. "She says she wants to make amends, but she still tries to justify what she did. Says she was desperate. Says I don't understand how hard it was." "Classic," I murmured. "She asked me for money last week. Said she couldn't pay her rent. Can you believe that? After everything?" I could believe it. Because Diane hadn't changed. She'd only lost the resources to pretend. The rental apartment Diane had moved into developed a mold problem. The landlord refused to fix it properly. I heard she'd tried to break the lease but couldn't afford the penalty, so she stayed there, living with water damage and mold that made her cough constantly. Her car broke down. She couldn't afford repairs, so she sold it for scrap and started taking the bus. I saw her once, waiting at the bus stop in the rain, looking miserable and small. She applied for food assistance. In our town, where she'd once been on charity boards, where she'd presented herself as a benefactor, she was now standing in line at the food bank. Someone from church saw her there and mentioned it to Reverend Miles, who mentioned it to Barbara, who told me the Florida vacation property she'd dreamed about? Someone else bought it. I saw the listing online. A beautiful beach condo, exactly the kind of place Diane had shown me pictures of, saying, someday. That someday would never come for her now. I heard she tried to join a different church across town, hoping for a fresh start where no one knew her story. But someone from our congregation had a sister who attended there. Word spread. She stopped going after 2 weeks. Her isolation was complete. Self-inflicted, yes, but complete nonetheless. I should have felt vindictive pleasure in all this. Some part of me wanted to, but mostly, I just felt satisfied. The universe had rebalanced itself. 1 year after the settlement, I took a vacation, a real vacation, to California, to see the ocean. I'd always wanted to go, but could never afford it when I was sending Diane $500 every month. I walked on the beach, ate at restaurants, stayed in a nice hotel. I was 76 years old, and I was finally living the retirement Robert and I had planned together. At a beachside cafe, I met a widower named James. We talked for hours, about loss, about betrayal, about finding joy again after hardship. We exchanged numbers. Nothing might come of it. But the possibility was there. The possibility of companionship, of happiness, of a life not defined by someone else's theft. While Diane sat alone in her moldy apartment, counting pennies for bus fare, I was watching the sunset over the Pacific Ocean, laughing with a kind man who bought me coffee and told me I had a beautiful smile. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Sometimes justice doesn't just mean winning. It means thriving while your enemies crumble. Looking back now, I've learned that trust without verification is dangerous. Family doesn't give anyone the right to exploit you. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is demand justice, no matter how uncomfortable it makes others. I don't regret fighting back. Not for one moment. Some people called me harsh, unforgiving. They said I should have shown mercy to Diane. But mercy without accountability isn't mercy. It's enabling. Diane had 15 years to come clean. She chose deception every single time. The consequences she faced weren't my cruelty. They were the natural result of her choices. Now, I ask you, what would you have done? If you discovered someone you trusted had been stealing from you for years, would you have let it go to keep the peace? Would you have accepted a fraction of what was owed and stayed silent? Or would you have fought for justice, no matter the cost? Think about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about trust, family, and standing up for yourself, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Make sure you're teaching them the right lesson.